Our next presenter is from a manufacturer or from a vendor side, and we've got, I'm not sure if Shara and John are going to be both joining us up here, but they're both great. And so we're going to share some data with you this morning, some formatting that I'm sort of secretly hoping many of you fall asleep, go get a coffee, don't pay attention, and then we can keep our competitive advantage. But that's not really why we're here today. I look after sales and channel marketing for Newell. If you're not familiar with Newell itself, Newell Rubbermaid, some of the brands that you might be familiar with are Sharpie, Papermate, Liquid Paper, Uniball. So we're very much in the office product side of the business into the writing segment. So what you're going to see is going to be a little bit of dissection of the writing segment. Shara Miller, who's here with me today, is our category analyst. So very much involved in the strategies that we set surrounding data. So again, we're here as a vendor to help give other vendors who might not currently utilize data a sneak peek, if you will, behind our curtain, what we're doing with data. And I think, again, to one of Chris's points, we don't just utilize currently AC Nielsen data, for example. So as you can imagine, we'll pick on Sharpie. Sharpie in the permanent marker category has a very heavy market share. We like to look at AC Nielsen data, and that gives us a good snapshot of mass market, food, drug, and mass, superstores, but it's missing that commercial component, which we want to get from COPA, and that'll give us a snapshot into the Canadian commercial component. But we also look at U.S. commercial data. So we can extrapolate Canada through basic math, what might be happening in our market in certain brands, because across the border we do have differentiated brand performance. So that's another source of data. Chris is mentioning, don't just stick to one source. We're using AC Nielsen, we're using US commercial data, we want to use the COPA commercial data for Canada, and we're using a variety of other sources, StatsCan as well. Once you put all that together, it's amazing the kind of a snapshot that you can get of a marketplace, and you can pinpoint where your growth is occurring, what's happening in the market, how you're performing relative to the overall size, to your competition, to a specific competitor. I think you'll be, again, if you're not utilizing data, I think when Shara gets up here and starts driving the bus, you'll be blown away by what we're able to see, which is why I want some of you specifically to go out for a coffee. With the data that we gather, one of the things that I've noticed over the last 5 years is that we used to analyze our business and our market based on dealer feedback, customer surveys, key customer surveys, research and development, mall intercepts, product reviews online. So there was a lot of verbiage, a lot of English, if you will, and not a lot of numbers 5 years ago. Maybe we were looking at the math part of it as 20% and the verbiage part of it is 80. Well, now, today, when we go and sit down with Chris, the majority of the conversation is data. It's 80% data-based, 20% all the rest. And we find our customers are curious about what's happening at retail, what's happening in the States, what's happening in Europe. And we're very much about understanding and knowing what's going on in all those markets. And then we can also share best practices across our company. Something in Europe or Australia might work for us here if we understand what their data is and how their market is performing. Okay, so at this point I'll hand it over to Shara, and she can drive the bus and show you some formats.
Great. Hi everyone. I'm excited to present this today, so thank you for having me. I'm going to be presenting from a manufacturer perspective. So just to start off, what I thought, looking at the COPA reports that we currently get quarterly, basically I look at what are the questions that we can answer now. So basically when we get that every quarter, we can answer from a writing perspective what the dollar value of the writing category is in the Canadian commercial market. We can see if the writing category is growing or declining in the latest quarter and year to date. And then basically how the writing category is performing relative to other office products categories. So those are really the 3 key questions that we can answer now using the COPA data that we have. But what's exciting is that the questions that we can now answer with the new data. So with the new data and the direction that COPA is going, we can answer questions like what size are the major subcategories within writing? You know, what subcategories are driving growth or declines? Who's the market leader in the category, in the subcategory, and what brands are gaining or losing market share, and what items are driving those growth and declines within the subcategories, and then what promotions are driving growth. And so essentially when we're looking at all those questions, we can reflect and look at, you know, what should we be focusing on? What should we be doing more often? What can we eliminate? Are there opportunities for cost savings? So essentially, coming away with these questions, all these new points of data can help us develop and measure a growth plan. So this is I'm not expecting you to see this, don't worry. I'm just gonna highlight, because I know it's pretty tight, but this would be an example of a 1-page market overview, writing market overview. So basically, I'm gonna take you through it just on the left. So you'd have your 1 page and it would kind of be total writing market overview. On the left is the category, and then listed below are some of the key subcategories.
Sorry, Sharon. Can you older guys at the back of the room actually see that? No. Okay.
Probably.
So I'm just going to help you
guys in the front of the room.
I know, I'm straight in to have a look at this. Well, let me just help you out with a couple of the headings, okay? Because it's important that you can see how the data is being dissected. Oh, thanks. There we go. Okay, so what we have here is total writing category. So we're looking at writing in particular for this exercise. Total writing, pens, and then we can break it down into ballpoints, gels, roller balls, porous, fine writing pencils, wood case, mechanical pencils, refills, ink lead, correction, paint, fluid, markers, permanent markers, highlighters, and dry erase. Okay, so we can see exactly what's going on with each of those categories, each of those product groups. And something that hasn't been mentioned yet, that at least maybe I was sleeping when it was mentioned, but the COPA data as it currently sits is not this comprehensive. The writing category was the first category that was selected to drill down into much finer detail. So that's why we have this up here. So if you're in another product category other than writing, you might not be here yet, but that's where COPA's headed, okay?
And I just want to emphasize too that what specific to the writing category, this is not, I just did really quick snapshot. There's even more subcategories that are available, and there's also, you can look at it so many ways because each item has been classified with so many attributes. Write down, if you wanted to look at just recycled pens, you could segment the market that way as well. And so if you have a specific need, this is just one example, but you can custom in some different subcategories to look at it unique to the way that you need to. So it's very exciting. That's the first piece right there. The second piece in the spreadsheet is really looking at the total market. So the size, market size in the millions, and basically at a glance it will give you an idea of understanding the subcategory importance, which categories are bigger than other ones, and looking at volume percent change, and then also unit percent change, which would be something new for us to be able to see within COPA. And then at a glance, this is just an example across the top of where at a glance you'd have the manufacturer market share and market share point change all across the top, and you'd be able to see by either manufacturer or by brand, depending on your business, looking at the share within the total category and also within each subcategory. So this is just one example of one spreadsheet that we use quite often. So you have a one-pager that could give you a top-line market overview.
Yeah, so this is pretty powerful stuff for us to be able to analyze. So for those of you that can't see this or can't, it's Mill Rubbermaid Office Products. If we were to look at the permanent marker line, obviously this would be the Sharpie product for us. So we can see what the Sharpie dollars are, what the share point change or share percentage is. And then here we've got BIC with BIC's share point change, private label with the share point change on private label, Crestar or Pilot, and what the share point change was for them, Pentel change, Stadler change, Zebra change. We get a good look at all of your data and can see where we're performing relative to you if we're picking up share points from you or you're picking them up from us. If you're picking them up from us, we're immediately going to try and figure out how and why you picked it up. Did you run a promotion? What was the promotion? How did it work? Did we run promotions like that? So you can see how powerful the data is. And I think what it does is it, again, going back to Chris's presentation, it helps us actually understand his perspective or the dealer's perspective much better as well. Chris isn't looking at growing Sharpie, or Doug, if Doug's here. What Brandon Toy is interested in doing is growing the category, or Staples is interested in growing the category. We're able to actually look at ways to grow the category via Sharpie. We're not happy unless the overall category is growing. And that's a fundamental shift in our thinking over the last 5 years.
This next report is just an example of an item ranking report. So this would be done, at the subcategory level, where each item in the subcategory is ranked on dollar volume. That's that first portion, and right from the item description, UPC, and the items are all coded by color, pack size, brand. So all these classifications are available. And then on the right side here, we've got dollar, unit, and so you can see the dollar volume percent change, the unit volume percent change, the average price, whether or not that average price is increased or decreased versus a year ago at the item level, and then the dollar share that item has within the total subcategory. And then a very important is the cumulative share, which I just put in brackets. It's your 80-20. So then essentially you can see how many items within the category would make up roughly 80% of the sales. So in this example, it would be 20 items would make up 80% of the sales in the category, which these are not all actual, it's just for illustrative purposes. But so that's just one example of a report that would be used as well.
Sorry, Sherry, just
okay.
to go back a little bit. So we could look at this from our own product's perspective. So the number 1 product could be a Sharpie 8-pack. The number 2 product could be a Papermate single open stock. The number 3 product could be, a Uniball item, or we could also look at this in terms of the category itself. So the number 1 item might be a Sharpie item. Number 2 item might be a BIC item. Number 3 item might be a Crestar item, and so on and so forth. So you can get an idea of what the dollars are and what you want to chase. And again, this is why I don't want you to have this data.
The third chart, what I just I wanted to show you as well, is just an example of a promotion analysis. And this, I know companies invest as well as resellers just heavily in promotions. And so understanding what brand promotions are actually driving growth for the category. So this is just an example, not actual numbers, but the top line there is a blue line which would represent the total permanent marker category. So you can see visibility of the sales by period. For example, this is over the 12-month calendar year. And then below the red line, it would be sales of Sharpie. The next line would be competitor B, and then the purple line, competitor C. So at a glance, you can see the ups and downs, and the timing of your promotions. And when you see, without this information, I guess we would look at, competitor B would look at their promotion and say, great, look, I'm up this percent versus a year ago. Let's do it again next year. But without the big picture, he wouldn't realize that, in fact, the total permanent category was down 2%. So that's not the right decision in terms of executing that promotion again versus looking at the Sharpie promotion. They were up versus a year ago, and they actually drove the category up 10%, whether it be bringing new users to the category, increased pack size. So there's so many ways to drive the category up. So I think it's just having that perspective, and when making decisions and planning, just looking, especially in categories where we've got flat to 1% growth rates, looking at ways to make the most and driving promotions is a real opportunity as well. So just as a summary, new information that we get will allow all of us to make better business decisions. And just to go along with what Chris was saying, it allows us to build strategic partnerships with our key customers and have a good understanding of category and subcategory importance, and looking at dollar and unit POS sales trends, being able to take advantage of those opportunities, and pricing trends. That's a whole analysis. I could have, trying to pick which slides to show, you could go crazy. I just grabbed like 3 that we use on a frequent basis, but there's quite a few to choose from, and pricing is one of those. And also looking, you know, having a good understanding of our brand share and performance, and then promotional analysis as well. So very excited. And the end.
Thanks, Sharon. Great job. Obviously, there's definitely a lot of things you can do with data, and that's what we're excited about in terms of what we're going to be hopefully delivering in the first quarter, especially in the writing instruments where we are, you'll see later on, ready to go.